Okay. Okay. All right. So those who are online, thank you for joining. Time out with PSOA here, lacrosse practice number 3. We are going to go over major fouls, but before I hand it over to Tom Koss with major fouls, some updates and announcements. So from our last practice last week, I'm going to be meeting with the Women's Lacrosse League to finalize timing, apparatuses used. That way the teams are on the same page of when they go to this site, this is going to be the clock. And then us officials, we know when we go to site, we know exactly what the clock is going to be. Even though we only had 1 ejection in the league last year, we're going to put a protocol what to do. Pretty simply put, we're going to treat it just like a high school ejection, minus you would just email myself the ejection report. I'll make sure that ejection report goes to the league and then to the team of the player that was ejected and or head coach. And then I'll just communicate to the next officiating crew of who has been ejected, not exactly why and all the information, but that way you're aware of it. But the teams will enforce all the suspensions, at least we know, in case something does come up or is asked of the next crew. We talked about travel compensation. I'm going to try to lower the limit instead of 50 miles to 40 miles. That way, if we're traveling to Lincoln or Lincoln's traveling to Omaha, and then the other thing is increase if we have to go to Des Moines. All right, so that is going to be addressed, and it's going to be up to board vote approval on that. And as soon as I have that, I'll share that with the lacrosse officials. And then I'm not sure if Paul Peterson is on, but I did run into a lacrosse official in the Des Moines area yesterday at Southeast Community College, and hopefully we have a new lacrosse official in Des Moines, Paul Peterson, to work with Paul in Des Moines. So with that being said, Tom, I'm going to hand it over to you. We have the extra microphone there, so if any question is asked in here, they could hear it online. If you do have a question online, the comment box is open. Zach Hunnell will then ask the question to the group. So feel free, if you have a question, put it in the comment box and put your name in the comment box so I know you're online. Tom, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you. So last week we went over minor fouls. Again, those are fouls that no one's going to get injured with a minor foul. This week we're going to talk about major fouls, and these are ones that almost all of them include some type of bodily contact. Not all of them. Would be a block or a push, things of that nature. All right. First one here is a check through the sphere, and one thing we're always worried about is the players, they have limited protection, is getting hit in the head. So that's when their stick comes within the sphere. Was it 8 inches, 12 inches?
7, I think.
Splitting the difference?
I believe it's 7. I think it's 12 for you.
Okay. When that stick comes basically between their head and their shoulders, and that's a potential for a stick to the head there, so that is a foul as well. In the sphere, illegal stick to body contact. So here the player is using their stick almost as a weapon a little bit to push the player away with their stick. And they're just typically when they're beat, they're not using their feet to play defense, but they're using their stick instead. Illegal stick to body. Anytime that stick is in a horizontal position and it makes contact with the offensive player, that's a foul. And the horizontal position is anything outside of, on a clock, 10 to 2. So here, this would be fine if I touched the opponent, if I was holding the stick like this. Now it's a foul. Holding, again, I'm being lazy. I'm using the stick to play defense. I'm holding that offensive player back with my stick. And not always, but where I see this the most is on an 8-meter shot is where I've seen it the most. They're lining up, and that defensive player, or excuse me, the offensive player's teammate knows that defender is going to crash on the person with the ball, and they'll just hold them back with their stick. That's where I see it the most. It's not the only time.
Yes, ground balls.
Yeah.
It's girls playing body, not ball. And then in A or B, I look for it on the draw circle too, because you will see girls sometimes that'll, instead of playing the ball after the ball goes up, they're trying to detain that girl from going into the draw circle.
And it can also be held sticks where, like on a ground ball, somebody will put their stick out and hold somebody else's stick down to prevent them from getting a ball.
Yep, that's another. I hadn't thought about holding their stick, but I was thinking more holding the person, but you're exactly right. Check to the head, and self-explanatory. Stick hits the opponent's head. And this is a cardable. It's not is cardable. It is a card, mandatory card on this here. So it's not just if I hit the opponent with my stick, but if the offensive player has their stick like this, and I check their stick, and making their stick hit their head, that's a foul as well.
Do you judge intent on that?
No.
So like, it's just stick hit head, card come out?
Yeah.
Or am I was just checking for any leeway to not call that. Is there any point when you don't call that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm not trying to get away from it. I'm just asking if I see it, like, if I go back to shoot and I hit something, or something like that.
So there is a call for that too.
Oh,
yeah.
But
I would say, so sometimes what you'll have, and you'll have players talking to you like, I'm getting hit in the head. No, you're putting your head, and so sometimes a player will dip their head into a stick, so they'll be driving towards goal, and they'll dip their head, and a defender's got their stick in legal position, right? So I think in those instances, you'll see girls that might I'm getting hit in the head. No, you're running into a stick.
Yeah, so
you have head hitting stick, not stick hitting head.
Correct.
Right.
yes, and if we see that, we more want to, okay, well, you're ducking down, going right into this girl, like, we're going to call that on you.
Yeah.
That's where it switches. Also, again, any horizontal stick, we're trying to call that for illegal stick anyway, but you will see girls, even when they're defending someone, they tend to get up and close to the neck, and they'll go right into girl's neck, and that's also check to the head.
That's just head,
Yeah.
area type of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, you'll see that slide up that shoulder, right? And it's like they'll be on shoulder, and then it slips up, and then you got to control your stick at that point in time.
Yeah, and the reason I was so quick to say no is, again, these are metal sticks, right? Or high composite, and the girls aren't wearing any helmets, right? So we want to keep the game safe.
Paul asked that would be forcing through. Does that make sense?
It could be.
Yeah.
Forcing through is slightly different. Forcing through is where you have sticks blocking the lane, and the lane's closed off. She doesn't have a lane to go through, and she's forcing through. So, yeah.
And we'll have a slide on that.
Okay, got it.
All right, slash. So this is reckless or dangerous swing of the cross at an opponent's cross or body. Contact is not necessary. Again, when the defender is beat is when you're going to see this. Or when that person is just had the ball stolen from them and they're mad and they're wanting a little revenge and they're coming hard with their stick. And this one here, you have to make a difference or distinguish between a slash and just a hard check, because there's players out there very strong, very athletic, and they can make a controlled check to the stick that knocks that stick out of that opponent's hand, completely legal. Sure, it was a hard check, but it wasn't an illegal check. This one, the player is out of control. Big indicator is they have one hand on their stick and they're coming in like they're chopping wood with an axe. And that's kind of the big tell is as soon as you see a hand come off the stick, you just better be ready for that.
Or even just coming past like their knee. If it's going all the way to the ground, that's uncontrolled. That's going to be a slash. For me.
And the reason Bonnie mentions that is because that check is typically, I didn't play lacrosse, so I'm not going to pretend that I know all this stuff. That check is down and back, right? They're coming, that's how they're typically checking. And if, like Bonnie said, they're coming past their knee down towards the ground, then that's not a,
They had no intention of coming
Yeah.
back.
Correct.
right.
And I think this is one where we certainly have some preventive officiating, right? It's like you're running down the field, you see that girl who's beat, and she's got one hand on it, or she's got it cocked, and you're like, don't do it, don't do it.
And you said that's with or without contact. So even if I swing and miss,
Yeah.
I'm still going to get a card because of my intention.
Yeah.
Yep.
100%.
Even when I'm
I
running,
assume that
yeah, I see the girl. I am coming down, and the girl's gotten out of my way, and I still come down. I'm still calling that.
All right, 3 seconds. So this is one that doesn't involve contact, okay? And unlike basketball where 3 seconds is on the offense, here 3 seconds is on the defense. We don't want a player just hanging out inside this 8-meter area and not guarding anybody because they're doing a couple of things. One, they're putting themselves at risk from a shot coming towards them. And two, it slows down the game. Again, one of the things is let's keep the game moving, keep the game fast paced, high scoring. If you're just playing a zone defense and you're not guarding anybody, that's what this 3 seconds is. So if you're hanging out inside that 8, outside of a stick's length away from an opponent, then you have potential for 3 seconds. And a stick's length is the length of the stick, not the length of your arm plus a stick. Right? So here
so essentially 3 feet.
so this doesn't count. This is within a stick's length.
Or you will see girls at the point, they get up and they're like,
Yeah, they're just.
Yeah, I'm guarding that person.
you're like, nope.
And that's one where we communicate a lot, where it's 21 guard somebody. And a lot of times they don't necessarily realize that they're doing it. They're confused. Maybe they just came into the game. They're not sure who they're supposed to be guarding. So we're going to communicate that to them.
What constitutes? So if I'm in there, she say she's in there for right at 3 seconds, but an offensive player comes in and she goes over the guard. Like we want to let that go, right? Like if they're making an attempt, kind of on the goal. Does that make sense?
There's a
Because like
Yeah.
I go back to basketball, right? In basketball, if offensive 3 seconds, it resets if the player who has the ball makes an attempt at a shot, right, or makes a move towards the basket. I can reset that.
So we're not looking to stop the game.
Right.
If that person is going to be at 3 seconds and now an offensive player comes by who's not guarded by somebody else, then we can say, okay, she switched to.
We can pick that, pick that.
Yeah.
Or that's what flags for. So in that 3 seconds instance, right, you've got an individual who's in 3 seconds. You're going to call 3 seconds, but there's a scoring play going on. You're going to put a flag up, and then you'll see what happens with that scoring play.
And we'll talk about the flags. All right, so here that count begins, like it says, when the ball crosses the restraining line. So not midfield, not inside the critical scoring area, but when the ball is below the restraining line. That's when you have to be aware of 3 seconds. So here's an exception to the 3 seconds. So here we have an offensive player or attack player, A2, standing behind the goal. This defensive player can say, I'm guarding this person, and because they're right behind the goal, we're kind of forgetting about the stick's length rule. They're okay guarding that person from the other side of the goal. If that person comes over here, now that's off the table. But here, that's okay. And it talks about shooting space, and we'll talk about that in a second. So the administration for 3 seconds. So let's say they must have, I'm not sure they're thinking D1 is the violator here. Let's back up. Help me out with this one, guys.
I don't know what they're doing here.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. I guess if
So
Oh,
on
I
that first one, are we shooting from that spot?
all right, no, all right. So here, go back. Sorry, go back to the other one, Tom.
The next one?
No, go back to the first one. So here, if we recall 3 seconds, we're going to set up the shot on the center hash of the 8 because the defender's in 3 seconds, the ball's inside of the 8. I think this is what this slide's trying to do is tell us where to set up the administration on this.
showing how to administer.
Okay, and remember,
In the neck, but yeah,
It's not in the right area.
correct.
for major fouls, and it could be part of the PowerPoint, Google Slides thing.
Yeah.
For fouls, we always back up until we hit one of the circles. So if a foul's inside the circle, we're backing up till we get to the 8. If we're between the 8 and the 12, we're backing up until we get to the 12.
I think that's the next slide. Is that ball's defenders in 3 seconds, balls between the 8 and the 12. So then we're going to close the spot on the 12.
Yeah, I think it's a PowerPoint thing.
And then here, if it's below GLE, we're going to go to the dot.
All right. Shooting space. This is a tough one. It's not one that's easy to pick up. But essentially what shooting space is, if you're not guarding somebody and you're between the person with the ball and the goal, and that person with the ball has an opportunity to shoot, even though you're not contacting anybody, you've committed a major foul by being in that lane between the shooter and the ball, or excuse me, the shooter and the goal. So what you're doing is you could potentially get hit with that ball, and as we talked about before, that ball is pretty hard. And this lane, this cone for shooting space, goes from where the ball is at to each side of that goal circle here. Now, in this case here, D1 and D3 are guarding the attack player, A2. So even though they're in that cone, they haven't committed a foul because they're guarding somebody. Let's back up. So let's look at these here. So just different spots where the ball's at. If we have a player here, they're more than a stick's length away. They're in shooting space, and that's an immediate whistle because we don't want that attack player to shoot and potentially injure that defender. Same thing here. If you're inside this cone, more than a stick's length away, you're in shooting space. Now this one down here, this defender is inside of this cone, but they're below the goal line extended. So on a good shot, a shot that could potentially go in the goal, they couldn't get hit. They're not throwing curveballs out there, right? So this person is not in violation of shooting space because there's no way that a shot on the goal that could go in could hit that defender. That makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think this one is where you do see this come into play a little bit more is quick passes, especially if you have a defender who's mirroring someone below GLE.
you get a pass like up on the elbow real quick, and then that defender who was mirroring turns around to play that ball in that girl, and they're just in wide open space, and then they're blocking that free space to shoot. I think that's where you see it bunch.
So yeah, we talked about how that person, if they're mirroring somebody that's behind the goal defending, are exempt from the 3-second rule, but they are not exempt from shooting space. If I'm guarding Tom, who say the table's the goal, I'm right on the goal circle, he's behind, I'm just here, and stuff is going on behind me.
I get the ball.
Yep. Abe's coming down then with the ball. I'm right in front of the goal. I'm in that shooter's way now. We're gonna call it right immediately. So Abe doesn't try to shoot, and I'm in a safe. I get to safety, but I will be an offender. I will be the
You might
offender.
have said that. Were you offense or defense? Were you on?
I'm
Who's defending?
defense. I'm
You were
defending.
guarding Tom.
I'm guarding
Yeah.
Tom, who's behind the
Sorry, I was
goal.
moving the camera. And
Right. And I'm here, right? So
Yep,
Bonnie
I got it.
turns around, I have the ball, shooting space.
Oh, she doesn't even have to turn
And I
around.
don't even have to turn around.
Correct. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Now the nuance here is how you approach the player that can shoot, right? Because you can't run into that free space, but if you're coming along that dotted line, and you can come in with your stick, and your stick can be in that area, and that's the way you can kind of get to that person without using your body. Your body is, I think, is the biggest issue when you're thinking about shooting space.
Yeah, so you,
If I'm again, like Tom's over here on the side of the goal, and I'm just defending over here. I see Abe's coming down. I'm just gonna, if I just go straight in front of him, that's immediately we're gonna call that. But if I were to take more of an angled approach,
Yeah, say I'm like over here, right?
and I'm running up towards him that way,
'Cause here's
and
my
I'm
free
still
space to
leaving
shoot.
space around.
He can still shoot straight through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so what Bonnie would be trying to do there is stay out of this cone until she's within a stick's length of the attack player. Then she can get in that cone and she's not violating shooting space. Because shooting space, you're more than a stick's length away. And if she can time it just right so that when she enters in that cone, she's closer to the attack player, then she's safe. Then it's on the offensive player to
shoot.
This is
To play
a
safely.
really hard thing to teach just from slides.
Yeah.
Like this will
Yeah.
be
Well,
something
it
that's
makes sense. It makes sense what you guys were describing. I was just making sure I had the right
Yeah.
teams in my head.
no, and it takes a long time
So if
to
you're-
actually learn it.
So
and
if you're
understand.
offense and say she's standing there for whatever reason in the shooting space, what happens?
nothing.
Nothing. I just,
Nothing would happen. If you shoot and hit your own player, it's a card.
Just
So-
checking.
So
I assumed it was just defense, but I want to make sure.
So the reason that we say it's harder to master this one is because usually fouls where that defender is actually doing something, it's easy to see, right? They slashed, they used their stick illegally. That person in shooting space hasn't necessarily done anything, so our eyes don't go to that person right away because they're not doing anything. So it's harder to pick that up.
And positioning is really important with this one too, right? Because you'll hear coaches holler, and that's shooting space, that's shooting space. And from the sideline where the coach is, it might actually look like shooting space. Whereas from where we're at, if we're in the right position, we should be able to see that a little bit better. And the angle that coach has from the sideline isn't the same angle that we have standing, outside of the 12 in the C position or in the deep trail position.
All right, so those are the major fouls that the defense can commit. So ones by the offense, dangerous follow through. So dangerous follow through is when I take a shot and I strike an opponent with my stick. Okay, so that's the dangerous follow through. Dangerous propel, like what you and Abe just talked about, when I throw the ball at somebody. Not a shot, but it's a dangerous pass, maybe. Too close, too hard.
And it could be a shot,
Mhm.
but dangerous shot's a different
Yeah.
penalty that's different, which is confusing.
Yeah.
But yes.
Forcing through. So
Oh, I was gonna say
Goodness.
for like dangerous propel. So if we were talking about that shooting space call again,
Mm-hmm.
someone's right there. We call shooting space, but the player with the ball still tries to take a shot off. They're gonna get then the dangerous propel card because we had already stopped play. We had already whistled to stop play for shooting space, and they still went through and shot.
I was gonna ask that.
And they will do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So think of,
They'll have to hit the player though.
you've talked about basketball
Mhm.
officiating.
Player, though.
Yeah.
They don't hit the player. It's not dangerous propel.
The majority of the time, like on a block charge situation, it's one or the other, right? Sometimes you guys will disagree and you'll have both. Here, it's both fouls. It's both a dangerous propel and shooting space.
Yeah.
You can have both, and that's
And the card supersedes, so
Yeah.
it's
You'll
Yeah.
still,
Yeah.
We'll give both fouls, but the card is gonna take precedent. So they're gonna go off, and the other team, even though they had the shooting space call, they'll still get the ball.
okay. Then forcing through. That one, talked about it just briefly before. We have two defenders standing here with their sticks, say like this. Yeah, so we're playing
We're double teaming.
good defense like this, and somebody tries to go through it, and they are putting themselves at risk by running into the sticks potentially. It's, you read that forcing through, you kind of think of a charge, but it's more stick.
yeah.
Contact.
I mean, it's rewarding the defense, right? It's like they've got good defensive positioning. They close the lane down for that, and that player is still choosing to run through that lane and put their head in a potentially dangerous position.
So if the sticks aren't there, I can split the double team.
Yeah.
But
If I'm a little
Yeah.
farther away,
You know-
I'm still trying to go this way. She's still.
I can still split the double team.
yeah,
It's when the contact made with the stick.
Yeah, it's when we're
Right,
right
right.
there. Yeah, she should not have a lane.
Yeah.
But yeah.
so an illegal cradle is when you're putting your stick in a position that it can't be checked legally. So we talked about not, we talked about a check in the sphere. Well, if you put your stick in your sphere, now nobody can check you. That's illegal as well.
And you will see that where girls, going back to splitting the double team, right? To avoid a forcing through, or they're trying to cut down that lane and that lane's closing.
Nope.
The only way they can get through is to illegally cradle in their spheres to get through it. And so they're here, right? And you're like, nope, and then shut that one down.
So again, another non-contact one. All right. Foul with the body would be a charge similar to basketball. The defender has position. They don't have to be stationary, but they're in good defensive position, and you run through them, or the player runs through that defender. An illegal pick, again, similar to basketball. For me to set a screen or a pick on somebody, my feet are shoulder width apart, and my stick is within inside my frame. If that defender's coming over and I lean into him, that's an illegal pick. Stick my stick out, which a lot of them do, that's an illegal pick as well.
Or setting, just like that, anything, anywhere there's picks, you're setting it in a blind spot.
Yeah, so that
I just
defender,
want everybody else to hear what you're
Yes, if you're setting it behind a player and they turn around and you're right there, and that would be a
So-
blind pick.
So is that though? Because and I think this is a good question because that's one I struggle with a little bit.
so they have to have time and space.
Time and or space. Because it's not both. You don't have to both. It's
Right.
time and or.
So
And if I'm stationary, right? So like, come up, step behind me. And I'm stationary.
Go to the front.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. So like, I'm stationary, right? You come up behind me. I'm not getting drawn into you, right? So I have time. I don't have space because you're behind me, but I do have time. So if I turn around and you're right here, well, I don't know. Is that
legal.
That feels legal to me, yes. It's now, if I'm moving blindly, right, and you set up behind me, then that would be certainly, I would block that all day long. But that's one of the ones, because during fall, there was a couple instances where girls stationary, standing here, like waiting for something, defender comes up, and I got coaches yelling at me, going like, that's an illegal pick. And I'm like, I got nothing. But I might be wrong in that instance too.
If that offensive player, again, we'll go through the categories. If I go to set the pick over here,
Right.
you definitely have space.
Yep.
And now that you get worked through me, that's a legal pick on my part. If you're playing defense, you're not looking at me, so you don't know I'm here, and I'm coming up to you. Now you had neither time nor space, right? Not that you have to have both,
But I'm stationary at this point too.
but if I'm coming up, well,
Oh, got it. You're still moving.
yeah, if I'm coming up, not giving you that time or space,
Right.
foul on me.
Right.
If you're moving,
Right.
if you're backpedaling and I come up and set it,
Right.
same thing.
Absolutely. That one's certainly blind. But for that defender who is sitting in a stationary spot waiting for something to happen and someone comes up like on their hip,
Yeah.
I don't think that person who's setting that pick, it's like, now, do they have space? No. Do they have time? Yes, because I'm not moving into you at that point. At least, again, that's just, if I'm wrong, cool, but that's,
Paul agrees with you as well.
all right, cool. Thanks, Paul. I appreciate you.
And I think that's where this is good.
No, right, because that one was one that totally came up in fall. That was I've been like reading like all winter, trying to make sure that like, am I doing this right or am I not doing this right? I don't know.
Okay, so these are charges. In this example, defender has positioned herself properly. She's in front of the attack player. Attack player tries to run through her. It's a charge. Okay. Illegal cradle, what we talked about here. This offensive player is putting that, it's hard to tell in the picture, she's putting that stick real close to her head so it can't be checked. All right, dangerous propel the ball with a cross in a dangerous or uncontrolled manner at any time. Again, it can be a pass that is too hard, too close. It can be
Usually a shot that hits a girl, most often.
It can even be if someone is going for a ground ball and they whip it up really quick, and that ends up hitting somebody.
Yep.
That we can call that as a dangerous propel.
Yeah.
Here's the holding where the defensive player in dark, looks like she's behind in this photo here. She's been beat, so she's using her stick to play defense. All right, here's some more picks. So set a moving or stationary pick out of the visual field of an opposing player, which does not allow time or space to stop or change direction and contact occurs. All right, so kind of what we were discussing there. That person being picked, we're not giving her a chance to adjust her path.
And I think that's go back to the stationary piece of it too, because in this case, right, the way the rule reads, the person's always moving when you're picking them. So I think that comes back to that stationary defender and setting up behind that stationary defender.
And we talked about the stick as well. Has to be between 10 and 2. Can't set a pick like this. And that's a good one to communicate with when it's close to happening. You know, if a player tried to set a pick and they had their stick sticking out like this, but the player went around it, the defensive player, there's no foul, but that's a good chance to go up to that player and say, hey, if that defender would have touched your stick, that has been a foul on you, just to communicate.
And you see hips sometimes too. You see a girl stick hip out in this instance, which would be outside the frame of her body, and elbow. So I think that those are the ones just to clip someone as they're coming past.
Knees, elbows, hips. Yeah.
Yeah, everything has to be within their shoulders, essentially. All right. So all these fouls, what happens kind of depends on where they happen. In here, foul outside of the critical scoring area. So we're in the middle of the field, and whichever let's see what they have. There's a foul here. A1, let's assume that the defense committed the foul here. Let's back up. So D1 commits the foul against A1, who is going left to right. The defense goes behind the offensive player versus in a minor foul, they went 4 meters away. Here they go 4 meters behind. And then the offensive player can just move, self-start.
But that would be only if that offensive player chooses to stop, though. That's a foul in the midfield.
Yeah, so a lot of it depends on the status of the ball, right? If she was fouled in such a manner that the ball went flying out of bounds, you know.
Yeah.
But if she still has the ball, all right, let's back up. So defensive foul in the critical scoring area below the goal line extended. We're going to go to the closest dot on the field, and the defensive player again goes 4 meters behind. And again, here we're assuming that these are not time-serving fouls where that player has to leave the field.
And then whistle start on these.
And these will be.
Midfield was not whistle start necessarily.
So in this one, again, not a time-serving foul. If it was a time-serving foul, nobody has to go behind her. Sometimes the teams get confused and think somebody has to go behind. Well, they're already being penalized by putting that person off the field. They don't need to be penalized again by putting a person behind the ball.
Maybe this is an obvious or easy question, I don't know, but if the defense makes the penalty right there,
Yep.
and it has to go behind, does it have to be the person who committed the penalty?
Yeah. Yep.
And that person can't sub out.
Correct.
Because you will see that sometimes where like they try to sub. Nope. They have to go behind and serve the penalty.
Yeah, and they
Sub out
weren't.
They
after.
have to serve their time for the
That makes sense.
offense they committed.
Correct.
Yeah, and they weren't always
Committed
trying.
crime, they're gonna serve.
They weren't necessarily trying to pull a fast one on you in that situation. Maybe it was their time to come out of the game anyway.
Right.
Yeah. They
They
may
just-
have tapped their head running down the field
Yeah.
beforehand and play stopped and they're
They just can't.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're inside the critical scoring area above the goal line extended. So we have a foul here between the 8 and the 12. We're going to back up to the next line, the 12. Clear that lane, just like we did for the minor fouls. Anytime we're on a foul puts the ball in the 12, we're going to clear that lane. That defensive player goes behind, and it's going to be a whistle start. Again, anytime we're putting somebody on either the 12 or the 8, it's going to be a whistle start. All right. So now, inside the 8-meter arc, now this one is set up a little bit differently. So again, we're going to back up to the next big circle, which is that 8. In here, we can't have anybody in the penalty zone. The zone is dot to dot, up to the 8, and back down to the dot. That's just the penalty zone. Nobody can be in there. The person committing the foul goes 4 meters behind, which 8 plus 4 is 12, so they're on the 12. Back up. Now in here, since nobody can be in this area, and nobody can be within 4 meters of the person who's fouled, so the closest that they could be is on the next adjacent hash, and that's awarded to the defense. So if we're setting up a foul on, say the center hash, the defense can be here and here. And a lot of times girls think they have to be on a hash. That's not true. They just can't be any closer than a hash away from the ball.
And defense they're entitled to those adjacent hashes, but if they don't want them, we don't put a girl there necessarily.
Yeah, we just, correct.
Yeah, in JV, sometimes a little more, would you like this hash? Yes. Okay, then you can have it, but it's not necessarily that they're entitled to that. And then I think the other thing that we see a lot is sticks up and out. So it's that person you're setting up on the 12, that stick needs to their stick needs to be 4 meters away as well. So their stick, their body, none of their person can be within 12 meters of the shooter. So it needs to be up and out of the 12. And then the girls that are in the 8, same thing. Sticks can be up and out of the 8, because you'll have girls that are like, I got my stick in my arm, and now they're 1.5 meters away from a girl between their stick and their arm.
Paul said, and no more indirect shots.
Correct.
That was on minor fouls.
Sorry,
Yep.
Oh, just minor foul.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Stream's a little bit behind. So usually.
I'd be a week behind then. That
Well,
was
there's that.
all right. Okay, here it talks defensive players are entitled to the adjacent hash.
So you'll get girls that set up a defender and an offender will set up on the same hash. When you have that, the defense gets to be on the side closest to the shooter. So here's the hash. Defender gets to be right here. Offender has to be on their other side.
All right, for 3 seconds, again, this one's a little different. Penalty administration for any 3 seconds foul is determined by the spot of the ball when the foul is called or when the flag went up. So if here D1, we'll say, is the person who is committing in 3 seconds, the ball is inside the 8, we go to the nearest hash. Here it's between the 8 and the 12. Again, we always back up until we hit a line. We're going to go to the 12. Here the ball's outside the critical scoring area. And this was changed 2 years ago, or a year or two ago. We're going to bring that ball to the 12. Yeah, restart at the spot on the 12 meter closest to the ball. All right, major fouls by defense, goalie. All right, so if the goalie commits the foul, they must go behind. And that's, let's back up. Oh, here, the next one. If the goalkeeper is out of the goal circle when defensive foul called and did not commit the foul, she may go back. So if the goalie didn't do anything wrong, she didn't commit a foul, she can go back into the goal circle. All right. But if she did commit the foul, the major foul, she has to go behind. And that's a big deal. Now you have a free goal, basically. You have a layup, if you will, because there's nobody to defend that cage.
I never see it usually that the goalie, it's like happening in the 8 meter, like that they're behind that way. It's always usually ending up, stuff is going on behind the goal, and so they end up on the dot. But still, that goalie has to run, get back into the goal circle.
All right, so for offensive fouls or attack fouls, here we're inside the 8. When the attack foul is inside the 8, the player foul will take the free position at the spot of the foul when they self-start. And this assumes we're outside of 1 minute to go in the quarter. Because if we have a foul under a minute to go in the quarter, inside the critical scoring area, we're stopping the clock. But if we're not stopping the clock, the defense can just pick up the ball and go.
It stopped the clock and this is
Correct.
What you said?
It stopped the clock and whistle start. Right. Here we're inside the critical scoring area, below the goal line extended. The player fouled will take the free position at the spot of the foul and may self-start. Again, we're not going to the dot because the offense committed the foul, not the defense.
That's an interesting one, Cindy. Not that you're incorrect, but think about this one in particular under that 1 minute, right? Because if we have a false start in between outside of the CSA, we're gonna let that girl just come back. We're gonna nope, come back. It's a whistle start. We're gonna go. Whereas if we're inside the CSA and we have a whistle start and they false start, that's illegal procedure, and then we are going the other way. So in this instance, under that 1 minute, I'm kind of curious as to
Well, and the clock is running is also in part of that too. So
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
okay, no, fair enough. So if clock is stopped, so and under that 1 minute where defense are typically you should just pick up and go.
That's my question.
Yeah, and it's
Does
like
there have to be a whistle start because it's under 1 minute?
yes.
Yes, so
Yes,
you're
because we're stopping
you're
time.
stopping the time.
I need you to repeat your question.
Say that again.
Can you repeat your question? It was, do you need a whistle
Whistle
start
start after the 1
after the one under
Under 1
Yeah.
minute.
under
So
1 minute? You need a whistle start.
If there's a foul,
offensive or defense?
if there's
Correct.
a foul inside the critical scoring area with less than a minute to go in the quarter, then we're stopping the clock. And anytime we're restarting play and we've stopped the clock, we have a whistle start. So if it's a stop clock, it's a whistle start. Right?
Yeah.
I'm just verifying.
You're good. I just want to make sure everybody else heard you. I heard you fine.
Another example here, more of the same, attack fouls. The defense can pick the ball up and go.
Did we say, because we kind of got into that talk, when it's below the GLE, under a minute, are we starting the defense on a dot then? Or if it's an attack foul?
Yeah, if we're stopping the clock,
Stopping the clock, we
Yeah.
put the defense, whoever got fouled on the dot.
Yes,
Okay.
or on the 8 or on the 12, depending upon where it happened within the CSA.
Okay, just checking.
Kind of the old way we used to do it before the defense could just self-start,
Yeah, okay.
but only if it's under a minute.
all right, so here it looks like now we're under a
Oh,
minute.
very
All right,
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
good.
all right. All right, attack foul inside the critical scoring area. We're under a minute. A whistle start is required. Now, if this foul occurs right in front of the goal, where are we going to put them?
On the 8.
On the 8, because we're not having a whistle start closer than 8 meters from the goal. All right, so major fouls on a scoring play, the flag. All right, Cindy, you want to lead this part?
No.
Okay, all right.
I'll listen.
All right, so again, think of the goals of lacrosse, women's lacrosse. We want to keep it safe and we want to keep the action going. So if I have the ball and I'm running to the goal and I'm fouled, we're not going to shut that play down. Like say it was a stick in the sphere, something like that, or even a check to the head, anything. We're not shutting that play down. We're going to raise our flag and say, hey, I acknowledge that there was a foul here. We're going to see what happens, and then we'll enforce any penalty. So that player has the ball. It's on a scoring play. She's fouled. Flag goes up. She's able to keep her momentum, keep control of the ball, shoot it, and score. Put that flag away, and we just continue on with our lives. She maybe she doesn't score, she shoots, and it's saved, but the foul does not affect that shot. Again, tuck it away and go on. If she's fouled in such a manner that the foul affects her shot, then we're shutting it down, because now there was some, that foul did affect the play, right? It did affect her ability to get the shot off. And it doesn't have to be immediate. If I'm fouled inside the 12, flag goes up, I don't have to shoot. I can stay, keep looking for a shot, pass it to a teammate, passes it to another teammate. Flag is still up. If that offense loses the ball because of a turnover, or they take it below the goal line extended, then we shut it down and say, okay, we had a foul for whatever it happened to be. We're going to be in the second hash or wherever. Then we
Or they back out, or they just stop. I mean, I think
the scoring play
the
ends.
scoring play ends, because going below GLE can be, because you might have a girl who's going to crease roll below
Yep.
GLE, in which case you want to see how that plays out before you get there. But if they just go to X and camp out, then it's
Yep.
blow it dead. But I think the only one is if they get fouled and it's a card, and they take the shot, then we're gonna call that time, administer that penalty, and then let that player shoot again. But that's the only time that you kind of don't.
Yeah.
They take a shot that you don't pocket your flag.
Yeah, I didn't really differentiate the
Okay, so
cardable fouls.
because I think I've never like let a play go when I've seen like a check to the head. I've never done my flag for that. I usually whistle right away for that, which is something I'm working on. But if they were to get that check to the head, I raise my flag and they still get the shot off. If they score, does it just go on? We acknowledge or we take the time, do the card.
Count the goal, timeout, administer the penalty.
But no, not another shot.
Correct.
Okay, that's where I was getting confused.
Yes,
what
because
you
they
said.
scored. If they shot and they didn't score, call timeout, administer the penalty, and they get that shot again.
Okay, so even if they got a shot off but didn't score, unlike any other foul.
I'm gonna say it doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah.
I think I've only had it happen like a handful of times.
So the
So you
caveat,
would- So I guess I go back to, did the foul affect their scoring opportunity? Check to the head, flag goes up, she shoots. The foul did not affect the scoring opportunity. Once the scoring opportunity is dead, then we kill it, administer the check to the head, and move on. There's no second shot.
No, well, there would be a second shot
There would
because she got checked to the head within the CSA someplace, right?
Okay.
So we're going to have a card, whether it was between the 8 and the 12, between wherever it happened, we're going to set up that play the same way you would administer that penalty anyway. Really, the only ones that it would affect from a card standpoint, I think, are check to the heads. You might have a dangerous contact, but if there's dangerous contact, typically that girl's going to be on the ground, right? So it's. Yeah.
Okay.
so the other caveat to that is if I'm in the act of shooting, get checked to the head, ball goes in, we count the goal, 2 minutes, attack gets the ball at midfield.
Correct. Yes.
Right.
That would be the other thing, right? Because after you administer that penalty, because we already scored the goal,
Yeah.
right? It's going to be a free
So-
ball for the team who was fouled.
And it doesn't have to be a cardable one. If I'm fouled while I'm shooting,
Mhm.
I get the ball at midfield,
Correct.
okay, which we don't do the best job of.
Right? It's like you shoot and then you get pushed after the fact, count the goal, girl was fouled after the, yeah.
So we need to do better on that. All right. So here's the book definition. The flag, it's a held whistle. You're acknowledging that there was a foul. You're going to let that attack to goal continue on. You guys okay with flags? All right. So what is a scoring play? Continuous effect by the offense to score, right? They're not setting up. They don't drop the ball. All right. So what do we have to have? The ball has to be in the critical scoring area for the flag. It has to be a scoring play, so the ball can't be loose, right? And loose does not mean a pass. I mean, it can't be bouncing around on the ground. So put up the flag, hold until the scoring play ends, or the attack loses possession, or they shoot.
I think that loose is interesting, which means about 3 seconds, right? Because you're counting. You're like 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, and then the ball's hitting the ground, and you're like, oh, there's no possession at the moment. All right, my flag's not coming out.
Yeah. All right. True or false questions on held whistle. The held whistle allows the attack to continue going to goal. True. The foul against the attacking player must be a major foul. We have an empty stick check. Are we going to have a flag?
No, because the ball's on the ground then.
No, but if, oh, yeah.
Let's back up. Let's look. Major foul by the defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a major, right?
Yeah. If the movement to goal stops, the official blows the whistle and administers a foul for the foul. True. So we're going to let the play continue. Yep. All right, that's the end of the presentation for major fouls. Let's take a look at. We talked about them. Let's see if we can't potentially see some of them. Oh, do you have the Wi-Fi for here?
I don't know what it is. I put it in a long time ago. And,
Do you have it on your phone?
Yes, we missed crossbody. Did we talk about rough and dangerous checks too? I guess we talked about holding, which essentially is that crossbody.
So I was gonna say that one picture.
Yeah, that-
like, that would be something that we usually just call
Crossbody.
crossbody on.
Yeah.
Oh, that might work. Oops.
Do we have a dangerous contact either? Mm-mm.
Dangerous shot,
Yeah, which is a weird one.
which is a hard one to teach.
Yeah. Well, because
Did I even do it?
well, it's only a shot at the goalkeeper that would be like pretty much in their back when their back's turned.
What's today? Okay. That network's not working for me. Zach's phone. Here.
Seen any hooking yet? I still haven't seen anybody do any hooking in our league.
All right. Thank you.
I called someone on that. I don't think they even understand what I was calling them for.
Well, I'm not sure what the mechanic is either. Because there's not a mechanic in the book for it. Bless you.
If it runs through here one more time. Okay. So in this particular clip, the ball is low. It's gonna move to high and then to middle. So there's a quick transition. And depending if there's 2 or 3 officials on this game, I would like you to think about what official is going to be able to see this play. It may or may not be the lead official. For 3, it would depend on who would see this in terms of the deep trail. We'll play the clip. So the ball is low, it's swinging up high, it comes to the middle, we've got that white attack player, and again, she's surrounded by those 4 blue defensive players. So
I think what happens here is we have a girl in blue uses her stick to ward off to push the offensive player. So illegal stick to body.
She receives the pass
right
here.
There.
Okay, we've got 33 who comes straight across, obviously in a very dangerous manner. Again, this is a cardable foul for check to the head.
Oh.
Running it through again. Ball comes up high, comes to the middle, the white player's on the ground, and again.
Let's look at a different one here.
Yeah, I mean, I could see you might put a card on that for like just like a shot to like the back of the ribs, but I didn't catch the check to the head.
They were saying that there was first contact to the body and then
Rule 10, Section 1, Major Fouls, Dangerous Play. Dangerous play is defined as any action by a player that is rough, threatening, and or without regard to player safety. Dangerous play may be carded.
That was check to the head.
Rule 10, Section 1, Major Fouls, Dangerous Shot and Illegal Shot, Penalty Administration. A dangerous shot, that is shooting dangerously or without control at the goalkeeper, and an illegal shot, shooting from an indirect free position,
which we don't have anymore.
Fouls that occur outside the goal circle. These fouls will be penalized 8 meters away from the goal circle. Both of these fouls are major fouls. Rule 10, Section 1.
Here's the shooting space.
Obstruction of free space to goal. Shooting space. The guidance looking to shoot has been taken out of the note regarding when obstruction to free space to goal should be followed. Officials should continue to focus on whether or not a defender is in legal player positioning within a stick's length of the ball, and if the shooter has an opportunity to shoot. Player possession. Player possession is defined as when the ball is in the player's cross and she can perform any of the normal functions of control, such as create dangerous follow through and dangerous propel.
So we hit pause for a second, Tom. I think just for those who are watching at home, they said dangerous shot earlier, and
dangerous shot is not a cardable offense. It is a shot that is at the goalie when the goalie is in an unprotected manner, whereas dangerous propel is the cardable offense, is the one I think we call the most and we see the most often, and that's propelling the ball and hitting another player. Just for those watching at home.
Yep. And this part here is dangerous
Follow through.
follow through.
Propel, I think, is what it was saying.
That screen doesn't come up very well online anymore.
Should be called if the defender has already
Okay.
established their legal defensive position with their cross and a dangerous thumb. Point of emphasis:
Okay.
dangerous follow through and
Blue.
dangerous propel. A player must not follow through with their cross in a dangerous
How she
or uncontrolled
hit the
manner
opponent.
at any time. A dangerous follow through should be called if the defender has already established.
I think seeing those girls there too, coming in on that girl is a really great way of how you don't get called for shooting space too. You see them both leading in with their sticks
Follow
to shut down that lane, and they're not leading with their bodies.
And here's another dangerous follow through.
should be called if the defender has already established their legal defensive position before the shot or pass. The lead official
Nails it,
must
hit her in
call
the
the
head.
foul on the shot. Therefore, the trail official may be the one to best see this foul and make the call. This is a mandatory card. Dangerous propel. A player must not propel the ball with their cross by passing, flicking, batting, or shooting in a dangerous or uncontrolled manner at any time without regard for the positioning of any field player.
Yeah,
Officials
so
must not hesitate.
let's look back at that one.
Batting or shooting in a dangerous or uncontrolled manner at any time without regard for the positioning
So,
of any field
in that
player.
one there,
Oh,
the
Officials must not hesitate.
defender was pretty close, or basically was within a stick's length, right? She might have been a little further away, but close enough. And that offensive player didn't care and still shot it. Here, it happened to hit her in the head or hit her body somewhere. Even if it wouldn't have hit her body, it'd still been a foul. It's just more obvious here. It really helped that she hit because now we can, it's
Yeah,
just easier to,
I mean, I think she was trying to pass.
Yeah, look at
She
pass.
just did.
She tried to pass.
well,
yeah,
Yeah.
but neither case.
yeah, either way.
Yeah, and I think the one you will see, especially in our league, right, is girls will be like that one where we saw earlier where the girl shot over top of the girl's head. You will see
You
that
will
they're
see
either
that.
shooting over top of their head or through their heads, and those are ones I think that we want to get because it does just. If they're getting away with that early in the game, they'll continue to do it throughout the
But-
game, and then someone's going to hit in the head one way or the
But
other.
what's wrong with shooting it over their head?
The one that they showed, it was the player's right in front of him, and she shot like right through her
The
spear.
The stick hit
Yeah.
her
Oh.
head.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But you can shoot it over her head, right?
I think
I
that's where
that'll be situational.
it can be situational because there are some more talented girls in our league who will be able to. I mean, it's very close a lot of the time, where they will be able to get a little space quickly and get it off right over the girl's like shoulder or something, and
So
it.
in that play that was showed earlier, what you're saying is even if she didn't make contact with her head, we would have a illegal
A dangerous propel.
Dangerous propel.
because
Yes.
it could've- okay.
I personally like those. Those ones scare me, right? I mean, and if we're trying to keep girls safe, there is not the level of skill within the league that a large percentage of the girls in our league can make that shot safely.
So if the stick goes
Saying
up
that
higher
really.
with the shot and I'm back and I shoot kind of, I don't know, almost fade away shot over her head, or it's not, is it still just anywhere around the head we want to get? Is that what I'm understanding?
I think you have to see it to evaluate to make the call at the time.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit there and give you a blanket like
Correct.
this is how it always is.
Fair enough. I get that.
And I think that's something.
When you see it, you'll know it, right?
Yeah, and I think that's something that we collectively as a group, like sometimes if it's an iffy one,
Like after a goal.
We can take a pause. We can take our own timeouts and say,
what'd you see from your end?
Yeah, did you like that? Like I didn't like that. Like it was okay on my side. All right, cool, very good, and then we can just move on.
So here, they're not talking about shooting space, but one thing that you can see how this player here, she's leading with her stick because she knows she can't put her person inside that cone. So this player is doing it. The other defender is doing the same thing. So that's why they're doing that, so they know they can't step in front of there. But let's back that up a little bit.
At any time without regard to the positioning of any field player. Officials must not hesitate to penalize a player who passes or shoots the ball into players, whether teammates or opponents. Contact does not need to occur to call dangerous propelling. Consider the proximity of players, the force of the pass or shot, and the location of the ball as it creates potential danger to those players. Be aware that dangerous propelling and the obstruction of the free space to goal often occur simultaneously, and if so, they must both be penalized. Players must have regard for where they are shooting. All players, including goalkeepers, are subject to both dangerous follow-through and dangerous propelling rules, and a yellow card must be administered if there is a violation of either. Point of emphasis: illegal defensive positioning. While illegal defensive positioning is not a distinct foul, it is a term intended to improve the understanding of the fouls obstruction of free space to goal and 3 seconds. Defenders within the critical scoring area are responsible for their legal position in both the 8-meter arc and 12-meter fan, and must abide by the obstruction of free space and 3-second rules.
So, not sure if I can time this one right, but
Area are responsible for in both the 8-meter arc and 12-meter fan, and must.
Okay, here, this defender here is going to jump inside that cone between the ball carrier and the circle, and you'll see this official here do this signal, and that's the shooting space.
Officials should be
You have this girl
diligent
here
in
pointing.
penalizing
That's my girl. No,
defenders
you got nobody.
or fail to remove themselves from the shooting lane when the attack has the opportunity to shoot safely if the free space to goal were clear. 3 seconds. Defenders who illegally occupy space
So,
within the
9's not guarding anybody.
The 3-second rule are occupying space they are not entitled to. In doing so, defenders unfairly take away cutting and passing lanes. This illegal position denies the attack the ability to legally execute their offense and may also eliminate opportunities to shoot safely. Obstruction of free space to goal. Penalizing illegal defensive positioning quickly and early keeps the game safe for all players and allows officials to better manage the risk of attackers shooting at unprotected players in the critical scoring area. Failure of an official to recognize or call illegal defensive positioning does not relieve an attack player the responsibility to pass or shoot safely. In this first clip, as the blue ball carrier beats the double team marking her on top of the arc, a white defender drops off her cutting attacker to stop the ball and is in the free space to goal. This should be called quickly. Officials need to see the players below the action on the ball prior to a possible move around the defender. Officials must be aware of and anticipate potential illegal positioning by the low defenders. This will help them to be ready to call this as soon as the ball carrier has the opportunity to shoot. The blue player is closely marked, beats her defender, and has an opportunity to shoot. Because the low defender continues to approach while remaining in the free space to goal, this must be called. In this clip, the official needs to see the low red defender who has clearly left her attacker and moved more than a stick's length away. As soon as the blue ball carrier beats her player, the call must be made quickly. Point of emphasis: game management. officiating is more than calling fouls and setting up penalties.
Alright, so your earrings out.
Let's see what this one is. This is from our brothers up north, sisters up north. Same idea though. So here's a foul because that shooter hit the defender right there in the head with her stick.
And to be clear, it should be what your deep trail or your C that is generally watching for that. Weapon 2-person, it definitely is trail because your lead official is following the ball into the goal.
We'll get those later. So major fouls. You've been learning about these for an hour now. You have it figured out, or do you have any questions?
No, off the top of my head.
Doug, what do you have?
Like Cindy said, some of these, you'll have a good idea on paper, but when you're actually knee deep in it and can see it, that'll be very, very helpful.
Yeah, and that's what those preseason play dates are good for, because it's an opportunity to see that, and there's more officials on the sidelines to talk about things and get opinions from them about
What actually happened? What are they seeing?
yeah.
And sometimes things happen so quickly in the game, and especially with the self starts or the playthroughs in the midfield, like you'll see a whistle go off and there's already down the rest of the field. And so it'll be really nice for those like play days and stuff that whoever's on the sidelines can be telling you also this is what they saw. And yeah, learning positioning and learning what stuff looks like actually when it's going on rather than just on paper, because it's some of those things are hard to describe.
Paul, have anything?
Nope.
All right. Well, if not, I think we're good. And then not next week,
Correct.
but the following week.
The following week.
And when are those live play?
March 15th and 16th.
Is the first one, 15, 16?
Yeah,
They're in Lincoln.
correct. Yep. Yep.